Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Joanna Ho. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. The Beijing official in charge of Hong Kong affairs says the national security law has overriding status. Hong Kong aligns its COVID city value standard with the mainland to smoothen cross-border travel. And China registers a record trade surplus for last year, despite a decline in exports. A senior Beijing official has urged Hong Kong to amend legislation to align them with the national security law. A legislator says such a move will not affect judicial independence. Macy Mock reports.
At a seminar in Beijing, Xia Baolong, the director of the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office, stressed the overriding status of the national security law in the SAR. He said, when the local legislation is inconsistent with the national security law should be applied first. And the government should take the initiative to amend and improve local laws, so they can be in unity with the national security law. Under the dual enforcement mechanism, Xia said, Hong Kong's duty is to safeguard national security, while Beijing will handle problems that the SAR finds difficult to resolve. Officials, including Financial Secretary Paul Chan and political heavyweights, listened to Xia via a video link.
It's not a problem at all to amend our local law in order to make sure it is not conflicting with the legislative intent of the national security law. It would not affect the judicial independence of Hong Kong, because actually that is not uncommon, that both in common law and in civil law systems.
An expert says there's no urgency to amend other laws apart from the legal practitioner's ordinance.
In particular, Section 27 of the ordinance authorizes the court to admit an overseas barrister to practice in individual cases. So the question that has arisen is whether overseas lawyers can be or should be admitted to practice in national security cases. So I believe that the National Security Committee will deliberate and decide on this matter and then propose necessary amendments to the Legislative Council.
Chief Executive John Lee said the Committee for Safeguarding National Security that he heads is in favor of amending the Legal Practitioner's Ordinance. He added the government will push forward with enacting Article 23 of the Basic Law as soon as possible. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
A veteran Australian barrister is joining Hong Kong's top court as a non-permanent judge. With Patrick Keane's appointment, there will be 11 Court of Final Appeal judges from other common law jurisdictions. The 70-year-old stepped down from the High Court of Australia in October after reaching retirement age. While overseas judges take up only one seat in the 5-member panel presiding over Court of Final Appeal cases, their presence lends credibility to Hong Kong's rule of law. British Supreme Court Justices Robert Reid and Patrick Hodge resigned last year, citing the loss of political freedom and freedom of expression in the city. Tickets for the high-speed rail service appear to be sold out online, though they are available at West Kowloon Station. Some found it difficult to navigate through the exclusive ticketing website and opted to buy in person. Katrina Lau reports.
One day after high-speed rail tickets were made available, the crowd at West Kowloon Station was smaller than yesterday. This man said buying tickets is more complicated now because more personal information is needed. A display screen at the station showing real-time ticket sales indicated that at 9 a.m. there were still places on the trains for the next 15 days. But on the exclusive ticket website 12306, almost all trains were fully booked. Station staff explained that there are separate quotas for tickets sold online and on site, adding that there are still slots for people turning up in person. Many people said the ticket website is difficult to navigate and not user-friendly. Some common email platforms were reportedly not receiving verification messages. We tried to create an account on the ticketing website, but after 7 hours, there was still no verification email. The exclusive ticketing page is available in Chinese and English, but its English version allows only foreign passport holders to register. Hong Kong and Chinese passport holders who only read English may not be able to proceed. Lawmaker Michael Tin recommended that travelers buy their tickets at the station because not everyone has online access. Tin added that the daily quota for mainland-bound trains should be raised to at least 10,000 to meet demand. Katrina Lau, HKIBC.
From Monday, people who have a CT value of 35 or more following a PCR test will be classified as COVID negative and will not have to isolate. This brings Hong Kong in line with the mainland standard and is expected to make border crossings smoother. The government announced that starting on Monday, people who take a PCR test and are found to have a CT value of 35 or above, which is usually highly unlikely to be infectious, will not be deemed to be COVID positive and will not require isolation. A higher CT value indicates a lower viral load. The change aligns Hong Kong's CT value standard with that of the mainland. It comes after concerns were raised that the discrepancy inconvenienced cross-border travelers. Currently, people from Hong Kong can enter the mainland if they have a negative PCR result with a CT value of 35 or above, obtained within 48 hours before departure. But some private laboratories in the city only classify test results with a CT value of 40 or higher as negative. The government said the new standard will help in the return to normality. It will be applied in free and self-paid tests at all testing institutions recognized by the government. Results obtained from self-paid tests can be used to cross the border. Those with a CT value of 35 or above and are already in isolation will receive a text message by noon on Monday, telling them that they can go out again. But people who tested positive through RAT tests and reported to the government will still be restricted by the isolation order. The government says this is because RAT tests do not show CT values and are less sensitive in detecting the virus than PCR tests. Hong Kong University virologist Leo Poon says the government's move is logical. Asked whether the change would allow some newly infected COVID patients to slip through because they have a high CT value, Poon said that's possible but not a concern.
We have to bear in mind that in the community, there are so many cases around. Now we're talking about 10,000 cases, or now maybe sometimes even have 20,000 cases. So there are a lot of people infectious in the community already. So missing a few percentage of these people would not make a major public health impact.
Hong Kong University epidemiologist Ben Calling said the mandatory isolation order for all positive cases should have been scrapped half a year ago. The city has recorded its first 2 locally transmitted XBB.1.5 cases. The World Health Organization says the new Omicron subvariant is very infectious. New COVID cases in Hong Kong dropped for the 6th consecutive day, with the city registering 8,260 infections today, with 228 of them imported. There were 71 COVID-related deaths. China has rebuffed claims that its COVID information has not been transparent and defended its retaliatory measures against Japan and South Korea. Foreign Ministry officials said Beijing has been sharing relevant pandemic data and cooperated closely with the World Health Organization. They said no new strain has emerged in the country. The officials lamented the entry restrictions adopted by some countries against Chinese travelers, saying the curbs lacked scientific evidence. Immigration officials, meanwhile, reported that nearly 500,000 people have traveled across its borders over the past 5 days. China's trade surplus surged to another record last year, although exports declined in the fourth quarter. A government spokesman admitted the situation may deteriorate this year. Raymond Yang reports.
As global demand remains weak, China's role as the world's factory continued to take a beating. Exports in December came in at $306 billion, a 9.9% drop year-on-year, and the third consecutive month of decline. But for the full year, exports rose 7% to $3.6 trillion, setting another record. Most of the gains came in the middle of the year, when China's supply chains began to stabilize after COVID lockdowns severely disrupted factory production. But the upward trend reversed in the fourth quarter, when central banks around the world began raising interest rates to cool down out-of-control inflation. Imports, meanwhile, fell 7.5% in December from a year ago, but edged up 1.1% to $2.7 trillion for all of 2022, despite weak domestic demand. Beijing's trade surplus ballooned to $878 billion, a 30% surge from 2021 and the most by any economy. And despite tariffs and sanctions, China recorded a surplus of $404 billion with the United States, an increase of 1.9%. But most analysts expect exports from the world's second largest economy to remain sluggish in the coming months.
当前我国经济恢复的基础尚不牢固。
China Customs spokesman Lu Daliang admitted there are still many difficulties and challenges in foreign trade this year. Imports, however, could recover as Beijing is determined to move on from 3 years of COVID-0. Raymond Yang, HKIBC.
Europe's largest deposit of rare earth metals has been found in the northern Swedish province of Lapland. The discovery will reduce Europe's almost total dependence on China for minerals needed to make products such as smartphones, electric vehicles, and missiles. The deposit contains about 1 million tons of rare earths, but it will take at least a decade before mining starts. Now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng Index closed up 224 points. To the top 10 active stocks, Tracker Fund was up 22 cents, Alibaba up $1.90. Ping An up $2.15, AIA down 45 cents. To the forex trading against the Hong Kong dollar, euros at 8.44, pounds at 9.51, and Australian dollar at 5.42. Over to the UK market, FTSE 100 is up 38 points. On to the weather now. It will be foggy with rainy periods, with the mercury dropping considerably late on Sunday. But tomorrow's temperatures will range between 22 and 26 degrees. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Friday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Joanna Ho. Thanks for watching. Good night.